Hi there, and welcome back to Paws and Pawsitivity. I'm Jamie Watkinson-Harvey, your certified dog trainer and host of this podcast. And whether you're out for a wander with your pup or curled up at home, I'm really glad that you're tuning in today. Because today, we're talking about something that almost every dog owner has seen and probably laughed at. We're getting into the wonderful world of Zoomies. Or if you want to get a bit more technical, FRAPs, Frenetic Random Activity Periods. Try saying that with your mouth full. But honestly, the sciencey name aside, Zoomies are one of those things that are as entertaining as they are puzzling. Why do dogs suddenly bolt around like their tails are on fire? Are they happy? Stressed? Is it something we should stop? Or is it just dog joy on full display? So let's explore it together. And yes, I've got a few stories to share too, especially about my older Frenchie Onyx, who's had the most theatrical zoomies of any dog I've ever known. Picture a small barrel of legs tearing around the garden, snorting like a tiny dragon. Pure chaos, pure joy. So, what's actually going on when your dog explodes into a burst of energy? Well, those zoomies, those wild tail-tucked dashes around the house or garden, are totally normal. You'll usually see your dog sprinting in circles or zipping around like being chased by invisible squirrels. The back end tucks under, their legs go a bit spaghetti-like, and off they go. Sometimes there's barking or snorting, or even a cheeky play bow mid-flight. And here's the lovely thing. It's a sign your dog is letting off steam in the most natural way. You might be wondering why zoomies actually happen. They're often triggered by excitement, relief, or just built up energy that needs a way out. For example, a very common one is the post-bath zoomie, that mad, wet scramble around the house once they've survived the horror of being shampooed. It's not them saying, I hate you forever. It's more like, I lived, and now I must sprint. Other common triggers include finishing a walk, greeting you after a long day, or simply feeling the vibe at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday for absolutely no reason. Sometimes it can look like they're zooming after a walk because they've got energy to burn. But what's actually happening is they've just finished holding it together, being polite on lead, ignoring squirrels, walking past other dogs, like shouting about it. And now that they're home and they're safe, and the emotional floodgates can now open. It's like a kettle that's been slowly heating up and suddenly hits boiling point, and boom, zoomies. Now, each dog has their own little flair of how they zoom. Onyx, for instance, would wait for guests to arrive before treating them to a private performance. He'd suddenly erupt into this glorious display of spinning, huffing, and bouncing, just like he was on a stage, and we were his audience. And you know what? It was brilliant. Now, should you be worried if your dog gets zoomies? In most cases, no. Zoomies are usually just an outlet for happy energy. That said, it's worth paying attention if they're getting hurt during their mad sprints, maybe slipping on tile floors, crashing into table legs, or knocking over small children who never saw it coming. It's also worth watching if it always seems to happen in moments of high stress or uncertainty, like straight after a scary encounter, or when they're clearly struggling emotionally. And then there's a third situation where it tips into a bit of chaos, when the zoomies escalate and your dog becomes hard to redirect or settle. In that case, it might not be a joyful zoomie at all, but a sign that they're over-aroused and struggling to regulate themselves. So if you're seeing injuries, if your dog is zooming right after a panic moment, or if they can't calm down afterwards, that might be your cue to have a chat with a trainer or behaviourist. But for the majority of dogs, zoomies are harmless and honestly, a little magical. That said, it's definitely worth creating a Zoomie safe space. If you've got a garden, brilliant. Open space, fewer obstacles, and soft ground are ideal. Indoors, you'd want to watch for slippery surfaces. Rugs and yoga mats can be your best friends here. And if you've got glass coffee tables or antique vases, maybe just move them out of the Zoomie zone. I've even seen people lay out those soft foam kids tiles to create sort of a kind of a dog-safe runway. And that's honestly genius. I mean, in Onyx's case, we ended up with what I call a Zoomie lane in the garden, a worn-down path that's curved from the back step to the storage box, around the fencing, and back again. And he stuck to it like it was a Formula One track. And once I realized this was his routine, I made sure that space stayed clear and slip-free. It worked perfectly. Now, here's something really important to keep in mind. Zoomies and overarousal can sometimes look similar, but they're not the same thing. A zoomie is usually playful, brief, and very self-contained. Your dog runs, they pant, they flop, it's over. But when a dog is over-aroused, they can get stuck in a loop, barking, jumping, mouthy behaviour, even reactive snapping. It tends to feel more frantic than fun, and it doesn't burn out as quickly. So how can you tell the difference? Well, watch the body language. Zoomie dogs have soft, loose bodies, bouncy movements, and that classic open mouth, tongue flopping grin. It's chaos, but it's happy chaos. Over-aroused dogs often look more stiff, more intense, and harder to settle. They may not respond to cues or touch the same way they usually do. If you're in that territory, training that focuses on emotional regulation can be hugely helpful. Think calm mat games, sniffy activities, and building up their ability to self-soothe. But when it's the real deal, true Zoomies, my advice is just to let them be a dog. These little bursts of madness are a reminder that our dogs are sentient, emotional, playful beings. They're not robots. They don't exist to walk next to us perfectly and never put a paw on. They exist to live. And sometimes that includes a wild, snorty lap around the living room. And if you ever capture Zoomie on camera, keep it. Celebrate it. Post it if you're comfortable. Because those are the moments that make all the effort worth it. That look in their eye, that spring in their step, it's pure, unfiltered happiness. And that's it for today's episode of Paws and Pawsitivity. I hope that I've helped you understand a little bit more about why your dog suddenly transforms into a furry rocket. Zoomies are just one of the many quirks that makes dogs so brilliant. And when we embrace these moments, we build deeper bonds with them. Thank you so much for listening today. And if this episode made you smile, give you a bit of clarity, I would love it if you could share the podcast, leave a nice rating, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Until next time, take care and give your pup a big hug from me. Woofity woof.